want to get a first in your university or college essay or report or any piece of work for that matter? If the answer is yes, then you are in the right place. In this video, I am going to teach you all of the steps that you need to take in order to get a first class result from your piece of work. And you know what? It's actually not that hard if you know what you're doing. Who am I to be able to tell you how to get a first in your essay? Well, I've marked my fair share. I've marked a lot of essays in my time because I have worked as a college lecturer and as a university lecturer, and I've marked an awful lot of pieces of work. So first and foremost, if you want to get a great grade, because don't we all, in your essay, you need to look at what is being asked of you. I've seen it happen too many times. The students will get the title and they'll just go off on a tangent and they will go off in the wrong direction. And whilst they might produce a good quality piece of work, if it's not answering the question it's supposed to answer, it doesn't get the marks, unfortunately. So the first thing that you need to do in order to get a first class essay is to really break it down. What are you being asked to do and how? It's a bit like when you apply for a job. You look at the job description and you will write in your cover letter, or you should write in your cover letter, that you can do every single thing that they want their member of staff to do, so that you show you're the right person for the job. It's exactly the same with an essay. So in your essay, have a look. What is the assessment criteria? What things are you being asked to talk about? And make sure you tick them all off. It's a simple tick list, essentially. It's so simple, yet it's one of the biggest mistakes that I have seen students make in my career. So let's take an example. I've got an old assignment brief that I used to teach from many years ago, and on this it has 3 main learning outcomes. So the first outcome here is to evaluate the various types of planning that's undertaken by airlines. So I would expect a big chunk of my essay to be all about evaluating the various types of planning. Number 2, analyse the importance of airline business models in relation to business performance. So I would then have a section where I covered that. And then point number 3, evaluate the role of ancillary revenues to airline profitability. So then I would dedicate a section of my essay on that. If you miss just one of these points out, you're going to potentially be missing out on a huge amount of marks. See, the way that it works is when your lecturer, or whoever it is that might be marking your work, gets your work, they are essentially marking it to a checklist. Have they done this? Yes, they get a point. Have they done that? No, they don't get a point. It's actually pretty simple. You can't, as a student, just be making up the rules. You need to stick to the rules, and that's how you get the points. So just think strategically, what do I need to do? So I do it. So one of the first things that you should do to get a great mark in your essay is to plan. So I would either use paper or a nice flip chart board, and I start to do a plan. I personally like spider diagrams, but you can use whichever method suits you. So as I just demonstrated to you, there were 3 learning outcomes. So 1, 2, 3. So naturally, assuming that there is an equal weighting, i.e. they're all worth the same amount of points. So let's say this is worth 20%. Turn this so you can see. Let's say this is worth 20% and this is worth 20%. Okay? So then I would naturally structure it so that these are all roughly the same size. So for example, let's say it's a 1,000 word essay. I would divide it up. So I've got 3 sections, but I also need an introduction and a conclusion. So roughly, how many words should we have for each section? Didn't know you were coming to a maths class, did you? So I'm going to go for around about 200 to 250 words per section. So we've got 200 words, 200 words, 200 words, 2, 4, 6. I might have maybe 150 for the intro, 150 for the conclusion, and then there's a few extra words that I'll fit in wherever I think it makes sense. So now I've got my overall structure of the essay, and I know how much to dedicate to each section. Now what will happen if I put 700 words in this first section, and only 200 here, and only 100 here? So your teachers cannot give you more than 20%. So even if you write 700 words for this first point, your teachers can't give you more than 20%. So it's a waste of your time and your energy. And as a teacher, I've seen this so many times, and it's so frustrating actually, and it's very disappointing because I want to give the student more marks, but there is a mark scheme and I can only give 20%. You will often be given the mark scheme as a student, or it will be indicated on your assignment brief where you get your marks and what you get them for. So it's really important before you actually start writing anything at all to take this on board, to think about it, and to work out how should you plan this. Planning is so important. Okay, so now we have worked out how much time and effort we're going to put into each section. Now we need to think about the content. So how am I going to address each of it? So that's when I often use my spider diagrams. So I will say point number 1 is about airline planning. Okay, airline planning. And the way I like to do it is I will jot down ideas. So for example, I might say, I think I should give examples. Oh, I know a good example. My teacher talks about EasyJet. I'm going to do more research on that. So then I would write EasyJet. And I want to talk about the processes. I learned about that in my class. So processes. And I want to talk about X, Y, and Z. So that's how I would plan. I would then write, ensuring that I include all of these different things. So once you have your plan in place, it's time to start writing. Now, it's important that you leave time to do a draft. Sometimes it's good to just write it and put it to one side and think about it. Give it some thought. Come back to it in a week, 2 weeks, a day, an hour. It depends how much time you've got, but sometimes it's good to just let it sit, let it cement in your mind, and then come back to it. You can also ask your tutors to look at drafts if they are willing, or you can ask your friends or your family, or perhaps even somebody who works for a company who supports or provides study skills for students, something like that. They don't always have to be a specialist to be able to give you feedback on your work. So allowing time to have a first, maybe even a second draft, I then would start writing. Make sure you've got your introduction and your conclusion. Always write those last. This is a mistake that many students will make. They usually start with the introduction, but actually you might not know exactly what's going to go into this essay yet. So really you want to get the body of the essay before you put the introduction in, because the introduction should tell you what is coming and you might not have that answer straight away. And it's always very clear when a student has written their introduction before the rest of their work. So I recommend you start straight away with your first point, write through, see how it goes. As you finish off, then you add in your introduction and your conclusion. Now, going back to that marking scheme that I was talking about before, usually in a marking scheme, it will tell you where you can get points and how they are allocated and why. Usually, you will have a certain amount of points that will be allocated, 1, to spelling and grammar, clarity of your writing, coherence of your writing, 2, for references. And this is something that drives me nuts. Students just don't really like referencing a lot of the time, and so they just don't really put in the time and effort to get it right. And you could have an essay that is completely wrong, completely off point. But if you've got awesome referencing, you're automatically going to get those marks. They are easy marks to get, but most students don't get them. So it's really important right from the start that you just master referencing. Once you've got it, it's like learning to ride a bike. I learned years ago. I've never forgotten. I don't think I ever will. I've done it so many times. So you will fall off the bike a few times. It will be hard work. Once you're on it, you're going full steam ahead and you're getting those marks. So just master referencing. If referencing isn't something that you know how to do well yet, I have a comprehensive video that will teach you everything you need to know, so do check that out. Another thing that I see all too often is that students miss out on marks because of their English language abilities. Even native speakers don't always get their English language, their spelling and their grammar correct. This again is something that can be easily rectified. All you need to do is to make sure you get it right, and there are a few ways you can do this. Grammarly is a great add-on that automatically detects these errors. It's free. I have put the link down below for you. You can download that, add it onto your computer, and that will pick up mistakes as you're going through. Another thing that you can do is to go through a professional proofreading service. Whilst this service won't usually come for free, it might be a worthwhile investment if you know a weak point of yours might be your spelling and grammar and English language. So I have also given you a link with more information to that down below too. So we did our plan, we've got our first draft, we've had our work proofread, we can go back to that tick list, make sure you've covered everything you need to cover, boom. There's your first class essay right there. If you found this video helpful, please do subscribe to my channel and do hit the like button. It helps me to share this video to the world and hopefully give other students just as much value as I really hope you have got from this video. So hit that like button and subscribe to my channel.